This is the Mentor Moments podcast. My name is Brayton Wooters, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Michael Kiener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. We hope you enjoy this episode and keep tuning in. We are going to hop on here and just kind of chat, kind of to conclude season 3, chat a little bit about some highlights, give us some stats. I know that Dr. Keener's got some stats. Got some numbers picked out for us here. So Dr. Keener, any just initial thoughts on this season and the episodes that we've recorded?
Well, I guess I just really want to start by thanking all our listeners who, continue to motivate us to continue to record and for us, helps us meet new people and to share their story. So I guess I just wanted to start there. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to kind of bounce off that, also our guests. We have had a very wide range of guests, I feel like, this season, maybe as compared to previous seasons. So, another big shout out, another big highlight was just the range of our guests and also the experience they all brought.
Again, that's the fun part now, because we've done it for like 3 seasons. We're running out of our colleagues to interview. So we're making friends, right? So that's even fun, right? It's fun for both of us to do that. I guess I would also be remiss if I didn't mention my co-host Brayton for it's just been,
oh my gosh,
you keep me young at heart. You teach me all the cool lingo.
Got us on TikTok.
Right.
Got us on TikTok. No, I think you're being generous, but I appreciate it.
No, you do so much behind the scenes, and if you follow us on social media, really that's all you, and you amaze me with your talent.
I appreciate that. And you know that I don't have nearly as many friends as you. So if it were up to me finding people to join, I think I would be having a tough time. So what kind of info do you have for us?
Yeah, well, so again, I just love looking at some stats. So we have listeners, 14 different countries. I know, wow. I told you I was going to quiz you. So how many states do we have listeners?
Okay, so you said 14 countries. I'm gonna say half, like 25.
Well, that's a guess. We have 38 states.
Oh, that's more than I had. Okay, wow.
Yeah. I was worried there for what you were going to say there.
It's gonna be too high. Yeah, all 50.
Yeah. But what was nice when we started, obviously because we're somewhat local, we had most of our listeners were really in Missouri, but now just a little bit over half are in Missouri. So again, our people are finding us and listening and tuning in. So that's fun. This year, we're just wrapping up season 3. We had 19 episodes, season 1, and counting this episode, we'll have 16 episodes for seasons 2 and 3. So that's exciting. We were joking that we have sort of an episode Hall of Fame, so Liz Ewert has the most listens ever. She was our second guest. Candace Farrell was our first guest. She is the second most, and Marissa Hyatt also in the first season. She's our third highest. So that was sort of our Hall of Fame. But for season 3, Christy Hammond was our most listened to episode, with close seconds to Tommy and Katie Wolf. So again, it's fun to come back and just re-listen to them.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, appreciate the guests for coming on and sharing. Sometimes I forget how nervous this can be for people to sort of share their wisdom and knowledge. And so sometimes it's a little massaging that we have to do to get somebody to agree. So again, as you said, thanks for the guests for coming on.
Yeah. When we kind of like take a moment to reflect on the season, any topics, any highlights that kind of come up for you that you feel like were really impactful? Yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, I like Katie and Tommy Wolf's episode. They did a 2 episode because they're married. They both graduated from Maryville, not together. I always like to say the program found them, but they graduated at different times. But just their sort of approach to wellness. They're very in tune with that, both personally and professionally. And Thomas just made a comment like you would never leave the house without brushing your teeth. And so that was his analogy that we should never really leave the house or make it a habit of our wellness, right? That really should just be a focus. So that was meaningful. We also interviewed one of your classmates, Emily Westfall, and she is so much into her rodeo lifestyle, and so that was kind of just fun. That also got a lot of listens, so it was just fun interviewing her as well, and again catching up and see where everybody was.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually glad that you brought up the rodeo episode. That I love how we're referring. I've been referring to it as the rodeo episode, almost like we were at the rodeo, but we weren't. It felt like it maybe. Yeah, I think when I think broadly, like topics, things that we talked about, I mean, obviously AI. I love talking about technology. That was a new topic that we wanted to kind of throw into the season and dedicate a couple episodes to. And so I thought that it was really cool because I expected us to go into and talk about like, I don't know, robots or Tesla or anything like that. But the episodes that we've had where we've had discussions just about disability and how technology has really revolutionized that sphere, it really kind of opened up a lot of, I don't know, a lot of hope, like feelings of hopefulness, feelings of optimism around kind of like where we're moving as a society. Very exciting stuff.
Well, and just sort of a teaser, we've recorded a couple episodes for season 4 already. Imagine that, and one is also kind of focusing on AI and the use of technology. So again, just listen to that. That would be a great episode.
Absolutely. I think another theme that I've been thinking about a lot is this idea of collaboration. It seems that, first of all, I mean, a lot of the guests that we've had like seem to know each other in some way, shape, or form, which I thought is just very, very funny.
I mean, Beth Dauber, who was sort of talking about technology. I mean, her claim to fame is her collaborating and trying to pull people together. So I'm not sure if it was that episode.
Yeah. I kind of want to, having Christy on the show or on our podcast was a very cool moment. A lot of the guests that we've had, I think, are very, have very strong connections to you. And bringing Christy in, well, Christy at that time was my boss, and so for one to have your boss on a podcast is in itself a new experience, and then also just being able to highlight Christy. I think that at the time of us recording this, Christy has a week left at Youth in Need, and so I'm feeling very reflective, very, very grateful. I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude that we are able to kind of just put a spotlight on those kinds of individuals that have made a really big impact on my life.
I mean, that's sort of the joy of doing the podcast, that we get to share people to the greater world, right? The greater good. So
you did this.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking, maybe not this season, but over the 3 seasons when we interviewed people from Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation, almost everyone talked about the culture of the agency, as a strength and as a positive. So I guess I just wanted to kind of share that as a theme that each of them could. It's not like we said, "Hey, what's the culture?" They brought it up on their own. So obviously that's sort of ingrained in their office and the agency.
Yeah, well, you've got me thinking more about, well, that might be something that we really touch on next season, is really taking a dive into how do you promote the culture, how do you change the culture if it's something that you don't want it to be. So that's kind of where my brain is going, and I think kind of going down that path. Any goals or I'll just start with predictions. Any predictions that you might have for our next season?
I would say hold on to your seat in your pants. Well, I think again, what Brayton and I love to do is to look at something and to say, how can we make it just a little bit better? So we're constantly thinking about what do we want the next season to be. We talked about maybe doing more strength-based, like maybe have somebody take the VIA character strengths and then talk about, okay, where do you see their strengths and their mentoring or their leadership? We're recording an episode next week with some former professors of mine. And so again, kind of like Brayton getting to show off Christy a bit. To me, it's an honor to kind of show off. So again, we're always just looking for trying to tweak it a little bit. So yes, we talk about career development or the profession of rehabilitation counseling, but how can we do it where we are still engaging our listeners?
Yeah. I think one thing that's coming up for me, and one thing that I've noticed that's been very consistent, I think even from like our very first episode, is, and correct me if this sounds corny or cliche, but we get a lot of, I see a lot of podcasts or news or media where they bring on a guest and it's just talking about what they're doing now and what kind of information can you bring to us, what are the projects and things that you're working on right now. And I think that that's really important, and there's definitely a space for it, and there's not a very big space of how'd you get here. How did you get from point A to point B? Like, what brought you to the place that you are now? And so while that looks like a lot of our sessions are kind of like looking in the rear view mirror, we spend a lot of our time in the past maybe when we talk with our guests. I think that it's really informative and something that you don't get a lot, I think, when you bring on guests to other podcasts. So
love it.
Little pat on the back for ourselves there.
Love it.
So I asked you predictions. Now I'm wondering goals. Any lofty small goals for the podcast, for an episode? Maybe it's one. You're like, okay, I want one episode just to be this. What are you thinking?
I guess I think we've done a couple episodes on professional engagement, and to me, I also think about other organizations I've been involved with that I've just been involved in it so long, I can't stop. Like it's become normal, or I just feel like it's a moral obligation to keep going. And so I feel like I would love to, maybe somebody could Google this. How many episodes does the average podcast have? How many years do they keep going or whatnot? I mean, 3 seasons, we're going into year 3, but it's obviously season 4 that we've been sort of doing this, and that we're sort of keep going strong and trying to innovate. So I guess I'm just excited to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it helps having a co-host. I think that if I can't speak for you, but if I were to do this by myself, I would have stopped after 3 episodes, gotten tired, and moved on to the next thing. So it helps to have a layer of accountability to not only to our listeners, but also to each other, I think.
It's like co-leading a group, right? It's support and help, right?
So. Whenever I think of goals, I've been touching on it a little bit, I want to do a Q&A episode. What were you thinking?
No, I guess there's lots of things I could add to that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I just think I would love if it, maybe we dedicate a portion of our episode to this. Maybe we just dedicate one episode like a month or something like that, where we just get questions from our viewers. We get questions from our listeners. I think that's a great reason why we've got our social media. And maybe we can provide our own,
I would love to have guest hosts.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that for a while. I would love, like, if the long-term viewers, listeners, remember our first year anniversary, we did one on Facebook Live, and then unfortunately we didn't save that. Like, it was only saved in Facebook for that, so maybe do something more live, but record it somewhere else so we can have it as an archive and innovate how people could use it. So, season 2, we did a live episode at the Missouri Rehab Association conference, integrating it into some coursework. So again, just kind of how can we help support other avenues with the podcast?
I'm doing some scrolling right now, but I've got an idea of who we should have be co-hosts or like guests. I'm thinking Marissa and Lisa. Wouldn't that be like a great? I feel like I just their vibe together. I just remember that from season 1, though. Like Marissa Hyatt and Lisa Alsop. Yeah, those two in a room would be very fun to have again. So I think the only other piece that I'm thinking about, I think we've spent 3 seasons essentially talking about joining, right? Being a joiner, saying yes to things. And now I'm in a season of life where I'm wondering if we could start talking about when to say no, and how to for lack of a better term, how to gracefully quit something. And we touch on it a little bit in certain episodes, but that's kind of like the other side of the coin that I wonder about sometimes. That's just a topic.
Well, again, that's sort of what I was alluding to when we talk about professional engagement. It's not just doing more, it's doing things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So you have fulfillment, not feeling like, oh my God, it's another thing that I have to do, right? So yeah, prioritizing, saying no, or postponing. Yeah.
And I love that we're already talking about it now essentially, but your choices, right? So less of a black and white, yes or no, quitting, not quitting, but well, you have flexibility. You can push things off or not push things off, but prioritize, move things around, seasons of life. Anyway, we'll save that for season 4. Stay tuned. I can't imagine it'll be too long of a break before season 4 starts back up. We're already recording episodes for that. So we really appreciate it. And we hope that you stay tuned for season 4.